everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ready, Set, Pop. My name is Mariel Basori, and I'm greeting you all the way from the beautiful Mexico City. And I'm here with my co hosts, Lucas Apache from Brazil and Mauricio Sierra from Colombia. Hey guys.
Hey guys, how are
Hey!
you?
Oh, we're fine.
Great.
Yeah, we
Another
are.
So excited for
episode.
this episode.
Me too,
Yeah,
me
yeah,
too.
so excited.
Yes. Well, today's episode is really cool. It's called Boy Bands. Just boy bands. We will be talking about a lot of things, all related to boy bands. Lucas is telling us all about those popular 90s and 2000s boy bands, while I will be talking about those rare, not so known boy bands. And our friend Mauricio is going to talk about R&B boy bands and their impact in the late 90s and the early 2000s. So, just to start, what is a boy band? Before we go into something else, just to tell you, a boy band is a group formed by boys, obviously in their early 20s or late 15. I don't know, like when they were really young, they started doing these boy bands, and nowadays they're all, you know, adults. But we remember them for being young back in the day, and we will be talking about their evolution throughout the years. So, Lucas, it's all you, guy. It's all you. Tell us all about those popular boy bands.
Hey guys, I love talk about this subject, boy bands. I wish I could be on a boy band, to be honest. So tonight I'm here with my Backstreet Boys cup from the DNA tour.
Oh, that's
Just
very,
the
Love
very
it.
biggest
beautiful.
boy band
Yeah.
in the world. I'm already fan. So let's start talking about those boy bands because we all know the boy bands always existed in the music market. So if you look in the 50s, the
Mm-hmm.
60s, the 70s, uh, the boy bands were there. But this podcast is more about the 90s and the early 2000s. So we are talking about that explosion that we lived as kids with the boy bands. So if you look in the beginning of the 90s, the boy bands were already a thing in Europe, especially in the UK. We take that, It's 17 and the Boyzone, and in America we had more R&B boy bands on the radio, like Mauricio will tell us about later, like Boys to Men, who were the biggest inspiration to the Backstreet Boys and a lot of boy bands. And the Backstreet Boys was formed in 1993, and they start to become famous in 1995 with the first single "We've Got It Going On," when they start to work with Max Martin, who created the whole boy band sound that we know, that was created and recreated and still a reference until now. And Lou Pearlman was the creator for this boy band, and he was also the creator for NSYNC. He created this boy band to be um, against the Backstreet Boys in the media. So the Backstreet Boys didn't know about NSYNC at first, and when NSYNC started to appear, they didn't know that was from Lou Pearlman. So they were very upset about this. Uh, but as I said, in Europe, the boy bands were already a thing. So the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC made their names before in Europe and then after in America. So Backstreet Boys were global 1997 after they hit the charts in US with Quit Playing Games with My Heart. And then that happened with the NSYNC with I Want You Back and Tearing Up My Heart. And all the
Mm-hmm.
world was looking for this explosion and making their own boy bands. So I believe a few of them were global. I know that all of them were big in Asia. I don't know why, but even the boy bands who were successful in their own countries were big in Asia. But globally, we can say that we had the Backstreet Boys and Sync Five, Westlife, and a few countries, Old Town, and a little bit of others. But those four, like Westlife, Five, and Sync, the Backstreet Boys, here in Brazil were huge, very famous, and I know that in a lot of part of words. But Lou Pearlman continued to create boy bands because it kind of became a machine for him and an addiction. You guys can know more about this in an amazing documentary that Lance Bass from NSYNC did for YouTube, telling the stories behind Lou Pearlman's creation that was really controversial. And so you guys can know more about this on YouTube in this documentary. Sorry, and we are talking more about the music, not about this part. So when it became a huge thing, a few boy bands were created, but wasn't that good or wasn't that well produced, or they didn't have the money to make that happen. The same way we talk about the pop princesses in the track one. So a lot of boy bands were
Mhm.
popping, and I feel like the teenager girls were kind of, oh my god, who I love now. I don't know what I can do, because there was those battles like you feel like NSYNC, you don't like Backstreet Boys. And for me, it never worked because I love it all of them. But I know that that was a real thing. So I want to know for Marielle about those boy bands that were popping and didn't were successful, like the Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. Why that happened, and which boy bands you think that are part of this group?
Well, thank you, Lucas. Like you mentioned, there were only a few global boy bands that were having huge impact in all over the world. And like you mentioned, some of them had like regular success, and some of them were only known in their countries. So, and I think now that you mentioned Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, that those two bands were the inspiration for the other bands that were upcoming, you know. So we can talk about this like all night, but we will never finish. So just to give you a few names about those boy bands that didn't make it so big but had moderate success, we can call Youngstown, we can call Soul Decision, we have Together,
Yeah,
which had some success, even though they were formed as a fictional um,
bands. Yeah,
boy band.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. Um, so we have other boy bands like Savage Garden. Maybe you don't consider them so much as boy bands, but I
But
mean
It's
they
they
like a
are.
were
duo.
Yeah, yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, I can mention you a lot. Dream Street. Uh,
LFO.
this one. LFO, yes, No Authority, OTT, C Note, D Side. I mean, we have
Yeah,
a bunch of boy bands from all over the world. I mean, I wish they could have been more successful because some of them only released one album, like Dream Street.
yeah,
I think the Dream Street formula was okay because when they released their first album, um, and their first single, It Happens Every Time, they
uh,
were in their 12s,
yeah. They were
13s,
kids,
14s.
really
So
kids.
they were kids. Yeah, so their voices weren't so mature, but still they were so attractive that young girls were so attracted to them
Yeah,
and felt kind of connected with Dream Street because of their target. You know, it was like we are in our teens and we want teens to love us. And so teens were great. We're fascinated with them because they weren't so old
yeah,
as the Backstreet Boys or as NSYNC. So I think Dream Street could have been a great formula if they didn't have so many conflicts with their management. I had the opportunity to interview Greg Raposo from Dream Street not so long ago, and he mentioned that we were only kids, so we didn't have so much control. If we could have been more in control of the band, things could have been different.
yeah.
But, you
Of
know,
course.
And
it could
this
have
was
been.
kind of the problem for all of them. right? The management,
Yes,
the money,
the management.
the moms trying to take
The
care of
budget,
their
yeah.
kids and all those things.
Yes, I think it's a big deal when it comes to a group because everybody wants to take control and people has different ideas. So it's a mess. It becomes a mess when it comes to a lot of members in one band.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens with girl groups. There's always a problem whether it's their management or their parents because they feel comfortable with what they're doing, but it's the others that don't allow them to be more creative.
Yeah.
So it's a shame. But I think definitely there's a lot of underrated boy bands out there. You mentioned some that were popular in Asia. We can call A1 and Blue, who were like
Yeah.
super big in Asia.
Yeah,
Awesome.
very
And
big. Yeah.
I mean, Blue is amazing. It's a great boy band. Um, and we have Old Town that had moderate success, and 98 Degrees was also back popular back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But the thing with 98 Degrees is that they weren't completely pop. They were mixing R&B with pop music,
Yeah.
which our friend Mauricio is going to tell us in a few moments. And I think some bands were mixing some genres to be more creative. Like I mentioned, 98 Degrees wanted to be more R&B, and probably Blue also had this R&B vibe, and Boyzone tried to have some R&B vibes too, so they can approach to a different target, which is difficult because sometimes when you start singing in some specific genre and then you jump into another, it can be difficult to be accepted in
Yeah.
Yeah.
some
I lost a lot of
new genre.
fans. Yeah.
But anyway, Mao, you have to tell us now all about the R&B boy bands from the 90s and early 2000s, and what was their impact on these popular bands that we were talking about.
Okay, thank you, Mariel. Before I start, I want to say that I feel totally grateful to have the opportunity to listen to you because you have a lot of information about boy bands that I don't even know. Like, it's amazing to hear all these informations about these boy bands that I don't know. For example, Soul Decision, Boyzone, a lot of boy bands that I don't know. I feel grateful. I thank you guys because I'm all the time I'm learning about you. And I think I can share my knowledge about R&B and CCM maybe, but it's amazing to have all this information. Well, getting to the topic, the subject, I want, of course, to talk about Boys to Men, and something is called the Boys to Men effect. That there is a documentary in Netflix talking about that, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about this. So I want to start with this band, this boy band that I know you know
New
is
Edition.
New Edition.
Mm-hmm.
I think New Edition, well, Jackson 5 was like the original idea, and then New Edition. And I want to talk about New Edition because what it was Michael Bivins that was part of New Edition that discovered like Boys to Men, or well, they were a band at that time in the late 90s, and they were looking for an opportunity, looking for a chance to become famous. And they, at that time, they found Michael Bivins, that was part of New Edition. And the first moment when Michael Bivins listened to these guys, Boys to Men singing, he was like, "Oh my God, they are better than us, than the New Edition." And this moment, they start working, and as I said, this was the Boys to Men effect. This is the first album by Boys to Men that is called Coolie Hook Harmony, and this is more like a New Jack Swing. Do
Okay.
you remember, guys, that in the early of the 90s, the New Jack Swing was very popular? Even
Mm-hmm.
people like Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey was like working on it, like Janet Jackson, for example, and they were success with this album, but they were looking for something more. And they discovered at that time that in the R&B and in the mainstream, the ballads were very important. So they start creating ballads. And with these amazing harmonies that they have, that, as you, Mariel, said, 98 Degrees got inspiration from them at that time, and they start working on it. It was amazing for Boys to Men because when an R&B boy band, for example, or an R&B singer release a work, is sometimes it's very difficult for them to chart in the top 40 in the Billboard 100, for example. It's very difficult for them. Sometimes they only chart in the R&B charts.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, Boys to Men was in they were in the both worlds, like in the mainstream and in the R&B. Not
Mm-hmm.
only African American people in the US were listening to them, all people were listening to them, like white people, not only black people, and it was amazing. And they start chart in the Billboard 100 at that time with number ones, even more like Madonna, even more like sometimes competing with Mariah Carey.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like the Boys to Men effect. Of course, when music industry saw this, they wanted to have the white version, we say that, of the Boys to Men. So they start to create these boy bands that Lucas mentioned, like Backstreet Boys and Sync. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to say, I'm not saying, of course, they are a copy, but they were like very inspired by this kind of formula. Good looking guys singing with harmonies, with very great
Mm-hmm.
voice. If you heard, like, for example, Justin Timberlake or JC Chasez, they are very R&B influence. You can
Yes.
hear the influence in their voices because this is what they wanted to do at that time.
Yeah.
So Boyz II Men was like the blueprint for them. I think that.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
And
now,
talking about the CCM. Okay, go ahead,
I, I
my
just
friend. Go
I
ahead,
just
Luquitas.
wanna say one thing before we lose the team because I forgot to mention the new kids on the block at the beginning of this video, and it's perfect to tell about them right now because you are telling about the white version of Boys to Men, and uh, we know that when they were looking for the boys for the Backstreet Boys, they were looking for guys who looked like New Kids on the Block and sounded like Boys to Men. So it was very
Mm-hmm.
racist. But we can not talk about New Kids on the Block because they were already
You can
big
suck in
boy
the block,
bands.
totally.
They
Yeah,
yeah
yeah, yeah.
they started in the 80s, but in the 90s they were there. So sorry, and please continue.
No, don't
No,
worry.
no,
No
no.
worries.
That was perfect because that was perfect because in the announcement that they put at that time, it was like this. It was,
Yeah.
we are looking New Kids on the Block, the look of the New Kids on the Block in the guys, the appearance, but sound
Mm-hmm.
like Boys to Men. So with different kind of voices, but with these soulful voices, but looking like New Kids on the Block. So yeah, thank you, my friend, because this is very important because New Kids on the Block is like another blueprint for
Yeah.
these boy bands, famous boy bands like NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. And
Yes,
well,
definitely. New Kids on the Block were a big reference
yeah, yeah, yeah,
to
yeah. I
to
think
a lot of boy bands.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally. And well, this was the Boyz II Men effect when these famous boy bands appear on the scene, on the map, like Backstreet Boys, on NSYNC, and 98 Degrees. The I'm not going to say that Boys to Men was lost, but almost like they start to lose some fame, to lose some in the charts. It was so different for them because if you remember, Boys to Men was so popular in the middle 90s and in the early 90s, but at the end of the decade they were not as famous as they were in the past, like in the middle or in the early. So it was a shame, but at the same time, it was a revolution for boy bands, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, we have these amazing boy bands like Boys to Men, like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and the others. So they start doing another things. One of the members left the group because maybe he was not like very convinced about to continue with this, maybe without that fame that they had in that previous moment. So in the 2000s we don't have a lot of work by Boys to Men, so that was, I think, for me, like the end of a gold era of Boys to Men.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
talking about the CCN ones, I going to mention two that were important to say that they are Plus One and True Vibe. I think,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, like in the Pop Princess episode, they were like the version of Plus One was the Backstreet Boys, the Christian Backstreet Boys, and True Vibe was the NSYNC version. Uh, for Plus One, they had a lot of money, I think, because Plus One had the opportunity to record more singles. Oh yeah, my friend Lucky does have the True Vibe album.
Oh,
He has the
That is
sign version.
and the signed version with all of the guys. It's amazing. Yeah, one of these guys that start working with True Vibe, that invented the idea of the True Vibe, was part of, I don't know if I'm wrong, NSYNC or no, 98 Degrees actually. 98 Degrees. He was part of 98 Degrees before they were signed. Yeah. And then because they wanted to make Christian music, he started with the idea of making like this kind of Christian boy band. So that was like the seed to start the True Vibe. And talking about Plus One had the opportunity to shoot videos like Written on My Heart, for example, that was very, very famous in the CCM charts. They were touring with people like Stacey Rico and Rachel Lampa at the time. They were even maybe not making the crossover to the mainstream, but they had the opportunity to record on some secular secular singers, like for example Ashley Ballard.
Mm-hmm.
They have a collaboration with Ashley Ballard at that time, and with other
Mm-hmm.
secular singers or mainstream singers. So they had more opportunities. In the case of True Vibe, they didn't have the chance to shoot a video, but the song Jam was
Jump, jump,
very,
jump. Yeah.
yeah, it was very it's a very catchy song, and it was very well chart in the Christian in the CCM charts at that time. It was very well. And as I said in the Pop Princess episode, they were the option for us Christian kids that like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC to have our own Backstreet Boys or NSYNC with that kind of formula. Well, I know you know Plus One and Survive, and it's amazing
Yeah.
because maybe you didn't have, like me, for example, didn't have the listening to the radio Christian stations, but you love them, you like them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Definitely.
amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because this is the real appreciation of music, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like I have mentioned you before, I'm not sure if in our videos or like personally, I don't think if that you should be a Christian just to love that music. I mean, if you can appreciate
Yeah.
music, it's great. I mean, doesn't matter the genre. Or like I mentioned you sometime, like if you like an artist from a different country and you don't speak that language, it's not bad. I mean, it's great that you appreciate all kinds of music. So that's why music is global.
Yeah, totally. And it's amazing to hear that because sometimes people, for example, maybe people like a song, but when they realize that it's a Christian song or something like that, it was like, oh, it's not my thing. And it doesn't make sense because if you like the song, if you like the lyrics, if you like the melody, it doesn't make sense. It's music, as you said, Mariel. So yeah, I
Yes.
totally agree with that.
So for me, is like this because I don't listen to those artists because they are Christian. Is because of the sounds, and if the message is good, so it's good. Doesn't matter the religion. And for me, sometimes the Christian pop artists sound even more pop if it makes sense to you guys. I don't know, but like True Vibe and Plus
Yes.
One, I just love those boy bands, and as much I love the secular ones. So for me, it doesn't matter. And it's a shame that Revive doesn't have a music video, like Mal said. They only appear on the underlying song from the movie soundtrack with Mandy Moore and
Mm.
Joey and
Mm-hmm.
Lance and
Mm-hmm.
Christian Burns from Baby Mac, which is another boy band that I love. So that's it.
Yes. I know.
Totally.
BB
I
Mac, I
think
know. I totally forgot to mention them.
Yeah, it's a lot of boy bands. It's
a
impossible
lot,
to
a lot
mention
of boy
everyone.
bands.
Yes.
Yeah, it's impossible to mention it. Yeah, yeah. And according what you said, Luquitas, I think it's because in the Christian market, they were not afraid to sound very pop because they had that formula.
Yeah,
So it was perfect for Christian kids or it was perfect for Christian radio. So I think they were not afraid. Maybe in other cases, for example, in the most popular, they were trying to maybe mix like R&B or rock sometimes. But in the Christian, they were just pop and that's all because they knew at that time that it would be the trend. It would be perfect. It would be a good result.
yeah.
Definitely. So, well, thank you, Mao, for giving us all this information about R&B and Christian boy bands. Now, I want to ask you guys, because we all, like, come from different countries. What about the boy bands from your countries? Lucas, tell us all about Brazilian boy bands. Are they really popular? Um, are are you guys still listening to boy bands right now in Brazil, or tell us all about it?
Okay, yeah, we had some very popular boy bands in the 80s that I don't believe that, but my aunties are always telling me about, like Polegar and Abelhudos and Domino. And Domino was like Menudo. They continued changing
Okay.
the members uh, with the age. When they are adults, they change it, the members. So when I was 8 in 1998, when the boy bands were starting the boom, Domino had a new formation here in Brazil, which was kind of popular. The song was huge,
Mm-hmm.
like was Baila Baila Comigo. There was the choreography, Baila Baila Comigo, was very popular, but the boy band was not that popular, but the song was. The first
Mm-hmm.
boy band
Mm-hmm.
that I experienced the explosion, the mania, and the girls screaming were KLB, in English KLB, which is this one here. This was the first single, Ador Desse Amor, which is a Portuguese version of The Purest of Pain and Apuro Dolor by Song by Four.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some by
Mm-hmm.
four. And
Some by four.
yeah, back then here in Brazil was very usual to the label took some song that was very popular around the world and translate to Portuguese, and so you never knew the original one here in Brazil. So that was the case with Apuro Dolor.
Okay.
We didn't have the song on the radio or MTV, and they were pop but more romantic because who was telling what is pop music in Brazil was Sandy and Junior, and they grow up making music, so they didn't have to use the formula. They were kind of the formula
Mm-hmm.
here in Brazil. So it was pop, but very romantic. And after this song was like a huge hit here in Brazil, they sold millions of records. The label tried to release the song by four version. This is the promo.
Okay.
So in this single, we have a Portuguese version, which is featuring KLB, but
Oh.
I never heard this on the radio. I never saw them on MTV, and I just
Mm-hmm.
found this like 2 years ago online because I didn't know that this was a thing. So it was not well
Mm-hmm.
promoted here in Brazil. So after this, we had other boy bands like Twister that I know that was kind of popular in Mexico too and in other countries because
Mm-hmm.
they had an Spanish album. They sang a theme from a soap opera telenovela in Mexico, El Juego de la Vida,
Yes.
right?
El juego de la vida.
Yeah.
Sí, yes.
So
I love that song. Y vive en el amor
yeah,
como
una
una
fiesta.
fiesta. Yes.
Aunque alguna
Too, me
vez
too.
te
Yeah,
haga llorar.
it's very good.
Haga llorar.
So they were very
I
popular
remember
here.
that one.
And finally, in 2003, we have a proper boy band with very formula thing with choreography and stuff, which was Bros. This boy band was
Mm-hmm.
part of the season 2 of the Pop Stars reality show here in Brazil. So they were very pop. The first song was very Latin pop. Was a version of I believe it was Carlos Vives called Fruta
Yeah,
Fresca.
Mm-hmm.
I think this name.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the song here was Prometida.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, we
Okay.
were taking songs from around the world and making Portuguese, but those were the boy bands that we had here in Brazil that I can mention right now. We had a lot like underground too, like Vibe. I want to show you. Oh, actually, this is Broad 1st,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
the boy band, and
Love them.
Vibe.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Vibe is an underrated boy band that I just discovered a few years ago because they
Mm-hmm.
weren't successful at all. And but the album is very good. It's very well produced and very R&B. It is good. So here in Brazil was
Okay.
basically this.
Okay. And what about Colombia, Mau? I know that Colombia is not known for having a bunch of pop bands, but I want to know about the boy bands.
Okay, well, as you said, like it's so true because in Colombia there is like a huge rock scene and tropical scene, but when it comes about pop, it's not like well received. I don't know because, for example, here people love pop like people like Madonna or Britney Spears. They have a lot of fans here, but I don't know when it's produced here in Colombia, maybe it's not as good as maybe producers want. So I'm going to talk about some. I think there is one that is very important. Maybe not the boy band formula, but they were a boy band or they are a boy band and they are called Los de Adentro.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same. They had the rock inspiration. They were very rock at that time. They had at that time a song called "Es una canción," that actually RBD has a cover of that song. RBD has a cover, and they were like the boy band formula. Like they were like boys, good looking, but not only voices. They were like the guitars and almost most more like a band, not a boy band.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more like a band, but it's a boy band
Mm-hmm.
because they were boys. It was working as that. So yeah, I think Los de Adentro. And then here in Colombia we had an important explosion in music that was called tropipop, and it was
Mm-hmm.
tropical music mixing with pop music. And in this case, we had a lot of boy bands doing tropipop. Bonka, Wamba, San Alejo, different kind of this stuff, mixing tropical music with pop music. At that time, I had the opportunity to attend to different concerts by them because at that time it was very famous. I don't know if your country in your countries guys by the Evento 40 that was produced by Los 40
Well,
Principales.
we
Yes,
here
And
no,
there
but I
is
don't
one
know what
here.
it is. Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. They invited a lot of singers that were very known at that time, like not only national, international, like La Oreja de Van Gogh, La Quinta Estación, Alex Sintek, a lot of from Mexico and from Spain actually, and it
Mm-hmm.
was it was it was huge at that time. So these boy bands, like tropipop boy bands, were participating in that concert. So they were very, very promoted at that time.
Okay.
This tropipop explosion finished like when I was graduating because it was all my high school, and then we never heard about these boy bands anymore. So I think they were very important in my life when I was in high school. They were very important. I hated some songs because it's not my stuff, it's not my kind of music, but I have to admit that I enjoy to listen to this kind of music with
Beautiful.
my friends at the time in the school, and listening in the radio and singing that songs in that concert. So yeah, they were a very important part of Colombian music in that moment of the 2000s. Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
In Mexico, I know
yeah,
you have a lot of boy bands, right?
Oh, yes. Actually, I think most boy
I'm very
bands, most
famous.
Latin boy bands, Latin American countries, love Mexican boy bands. So I'm gonna start with Magneto, that were
Of
formed
course.
in the late 80s, early 90s. Um, they were huge back in the day. They released this song called Vuela Vuela, which is a cover. I can't recall the name from the original band because they're French, and the original song was Voyage Voyage.
Voyage,
But they
voyage.
they
I
did
know.
this. Yeah, that one.
That one,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Magneto did this cover of Vuela Vuela, and it was huge here in Mexico. And they were formed by this guy that is like the Mexican Lou Pearlman, Toño Berumen, who later formed Mercurio, uh, which is one of my favorite boy bands out there. I grew up listening to them, so I love
I
them.
love the names. I
Um,
love the names. Mercurio,
Yes,
Magneto.
Mer yes, and Mercury was so big too. The girls were driving themselves crazy to go watch them. They were so popular. Their songs "Enamoradísimo," uh, "Tienes magia," "Creo en ti." They have a bunch of songs out there that they were super famous, and those were like the Backstreet Boys and the NSYNC of
Yeah.
Mexico. Because later came a lot of other groups that weren't so successful, like Tierra Cero, Ragazzi, um, Yes, I love
Me
ragazzi.
too now.
Ciao Mama. I'm the ones that I'm. Those are the ones I'm thinking right now. But those were like popular, and obviously most of them were influenced by these two, and obviously Menudo, who that was big. Menudo is Puerto Rican, so don't confuse. But I think that Menudo was a huge influence, like New Kids on the Block. I think Menudo was a huge influence to Latin American
Oh, for sure.
groups.
Yeah.
So yes. So those were the popular ones. I had been able to see some of them live, and I can tell you that they gave huge concerts, and I'm so happy to have grown in that time when they were so successful. And well, I can go on and on for for hours to tell you about these Mexican boy bands. Then came in the late 2010s. I'm not really sure because I'm not really familiar with their music, but they were huge. They were called CD9, CD9. But I was a little older,
Okay.
so young girls were like driving themselves crazy to see them, but they were super
Oh
famous.
yeah.
So yeah, that's about the Mexican bands. And nowadays, I think there's still boy bands out there in the world, but
Yes.
for us, for our generation, we are still married to the
Oh
boy
yeah.
bands
We are
we grew
loyal.
up with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, we're
totally.
loyal to those because I know nowadays these Korean bands like BTS are like extra famous. I don't
Yeah.
even know one song by them. I know, it's shame on me. But I know that girls are
They-
crazy all over the
yeah.
world just to go see them. I mean, they're even learning Korean.
Yeah.
They to know the lyrics to their songs. So I think boy bands can be a big influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we maybe give us the opportunity to listen to, for example, a BTS song, we could love that
Yeah.
song because it's like almost the same. It's like very similar to Backstreet Boys, very similar to NSYNC, even very similar to Boys to Men in that in some songs. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have the opportunity to listen to them because
I like a few
they're
songs.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't listen all
yeah.
the time, but I did before, and some songs are good. But I can be passionate, but about them like we were with
No,
our.
I
Yeah.
No, it's not the
It's not the
same. It's
same.
yeah, yeah, it's not our moment. I think
not the
we as an
same.
adults right now it's difficult that this kind of bands became like our favorites because we already have our
Yeah.
favorites.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, they are
Yes.
they are doing great.
Actually, it happened. I'm gonna tell you, my dad and I listened to pretty much the same things. And when my dad listened to groups that I like NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys, he said, "Oh my God, they're really good." But I do not see my dad, like playing those songs
Yeah.
for him. So because he still listens to what he
Yeah.
used to listen to
Same.
back in the
Same with my
70s,
father.
the Beatles or
Yeah.
whatever. Because it's by generations. You can I mean, you can say, I mean, I like what's going on right now, but I'm not a huge fan because I already had my moments of being a fan of someone,
You're
you
right.
know?
Totally, totally, totally.
Yes. So uh that's interesting to mention. And now we are going to play our games about telling our favorites. Lucas,
Yay.
please,
Woo.
let's move on to this part that I love. Lucas, please tell us your top three boy bands.
Okay. So to be more hard for us to choose, we cannot choose Backstreet Boys or anything. Okay.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it's super easy. So for me, my top three besides Backstreet Boys and NSYNC are Blue. I love them.
Love.
The
Yay.
Ryan's voice
It's
is
signed too?
insane. What? Sorry?
That CD is signed too
No,
by
no,
them?
no. Just the cover is like with a lot of information, but it's not signed.
It
Okay, okay.
it looks like graffiti, but
Yeah,
it's not.
it is.
Yeah.
He's this is a
Okay, okay,
Italian
okay, okay.
compilation. It's called Forever Blue, and I love
Okay,
the
okay,
Ryan's
okay.
voice. It's like insane. And the other one is Baby Mac. Uh, here.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
This is the Japanese version of Sooner or Later, and I'm a huge fan of Christian Burns, who is part of this band. Everything he does, I'm crazy about. He does a lot of electronic music and a lot of things with DJs. Uh, I don't know. There's something magical about him for me. I'm a huge fan. And the other one
Mm-hmm.
is Westlife, of course, because they are
Totally, of
so good. This is
course.
Coast to Coast. I think it's Deluxe Addiction from Brazil.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so those three.
And what about you, Mao? Your top
Well,
three fight boy bands, which I already know who are you going to
yeah, you
choose.
know that because I was, yeah, you know that because I was talking a lot about them. I idolize, idolize them. So of course, for me, like the number one is Boys to Men. I love them. I'm obsessed with them since the time I discovered their music. So yeah, the second one would be 112.
One Flow,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
One
112.
Twelve.
Yes.
This
Oh,
is part three, the album. Yeah, 112. Yeah, and the three would be I have this Blackstreet. I love
Oh,
Blackstreet. Yeah, this would be my top three. Yeah,
I love you, Mao. With you and
yeah.
your R&B.
yes.
Yeah, I cannot lie. Of course, I love a lot of pop boy bands, but of course, my favorite are the
I
R&B
remember
ones.
the name Blackstreet every time they were on MTV and was like, well, is Backstreet? No, what? Blackstreet? I was very confused by
Yeah.
the name.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you, Marielle, tell us your top
And
three.
um
What about you, Mariel?
well, I don't have a bunch of boy bands in my collection, but definitely my number one would be O Town.
Yay.
My without without NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys, it would be O Town, followed by Blue. I don't have anything by them, which is a shame.
No, it's a shame.
Um,
Yeah, you have
it
to.
is a
Yeah,
big shame. I know.
Yeah,
And my third one would be Mexican band Mercurio.
Mercurio.
I love
Yeah.
them.
Mercurio.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. You
Yes.
have any item by them? I think that.
I have one album by
Yeah.
Mercurio. Yes, the
Okay.
Chicas Chic. Now, Lucas, your favorite boy band album
Well, my favorite boy band
in
album.
your collection?
Okay. Is actually my favorite album, not in collection. Is the favorite album to listen is cliche, but is Millennium by the Backstreet Boys
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
the sound the
It's a
sound of
classic.
this is like pop perfection,
Yeah.
and I love all the tracks.
It
To
is.
be honest, I don't listen that much the three last songs, Spanish Eyes, no one else comes closer, The Perfect Fan, but I love them. But
Mm-hmm.
the rest of them I listen all the time, all the time. So this is my favorite.
Beautiful
Yeah,
album.
this is my favorite album.
Totally. Yeah.
And yours, Mao?
Well, I have actually two versions of this. This is the two album by Boys to Men. This is in Spanish actually, and it's called Yo Te Voy a Amar.
Oh,
With all
Okay.
the yeah, with all the versions in Spanish. I love it. I love it. It was very, I don't know if you if for example in Mexico, Mariel, it was very the song was very popular, Yo te voy a amar at that time. I don't know.
I
Here
don't
in Colombia was
remember.
popular. Yeah, here in Colombia was very popular. The Spanish version of I'll Make Love to You. And this is of course, my favorite. I love the English version, of course, but I wanted to show the
oh
two
yeah,
versions.
it's very
Yeah.
cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
I
you,
get. I have
Mariel?
to check that song.
What's yours, Marielle?
Yeah, yeah.
Your favorite boy band album
Oh,
ever?
mine. Um, it's difficult, but I'm going to go with O Town's debut album. Um, I love this album. I don't know if it's because they were formed during this 2000s era of making the band, which was great. I really enjoyed that show, and I definitely love this album from beginning to end as a single. I love that. I love this album and bought this in Las Vegas like 5 years ago with our friend, and I think that their single "Liquid Dreams" was a big decision to release. As Jordan Lake, who I think you guys know, shout out to you, Jordan, that we met in Vegas and we went city shopping. I found this one. Well, he found it and he said, "Weren't you looking for this one?" And I'm like, "Yes, I was looking for that one." So means a lot to me. This album, it's
Yeah.
my favorite. And what about your favorite item in your collection, Lucas?
Okay, I chose a whole era because I couldn't choose just one. Um, just a question. The reality show from Old Town was aired in Mexico on MTV.
Yes, it was
Oh,
there.
that's very cool. In Brazil, it wasn't on TV. It's really weird because we
Eh.
have the album, the Brazilian version. We even have a promo single for Liquid Dreams, but no one knows who is Old Town here. So,
Well, I don't. It's weird that you have a Brazilian version because in Mexico their album was never released
and they were on
and the
TV,
show
so
was
that's really,
broadcast. So
really great.
no.
Doesn't make sense at
Okay,
all. Yeah.
so back to my collection, I want to show you guys the celebrity era from NSYNC here in Brazil because that time they were connected to a huge label here in Brazil, which is Global Jive. Global is
Mm-hmm.
like the number one channel in television, and they were in the music industry back
Mm-hmm.
then. They release a lot of cool things. So we have the pop promo single for the first single,
Oh, wow.
and we have
And it's
Brazilian,
Brazilian.
all of
All
them,
of this
yeah.
stuff is Brazilian.
And
Wow.
the second
Yeah.
single was
Mm.
Gone. I love this cover. It's really
Wow.
beautiful.
That
Yeah.
The
song.
back
Very.
cover is really
Mm-hmm.
beautiful too. And
Yeah, yeah,
here in
yeah.
Brazil,
And it's Brazilian. It's a
yeah,
gem.
the promo singles in Brazil are very beautiful. And here in Brazil, before Girlfriend was a single, we had another single was Selfish. The song was on the
Oh,
radio
wow.
all the time because it was part of a soundtrack from a soap opera. The same one that released Jessica Simpson single "When You Told Me You Love" that I just showed in the another episode is the same that novella.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was very cool. And finally, we had the Whoops Girlfriend remix single with Nelly featuring Nelly, and that era was uh, ended with a special version of the Celebrity album.
Wow. This is
This is
beautiful.
beautiful.
This is
Yeah, it
something.
comes with the
Yeah.
Love
regular
it.
album and a special album with remixes
Oh, wow.
and the music videos.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like 10 tracks, a lot of remixes. So it was
What about the remixes?
uh, two.
Like EDM or something like that, or more R&B, I don't know, or with different collaboration with rappers or
Yeah,
something
we
like that?
have three from pop, very electronic, from Pablo La Rosa, Deep Dish, and Gone, a
Okay.
version called Gone Clubbing, which is very a dance track, and the Spanish version that you guys probably know. And Girlfriend is the Neptunes remix with Nelly and a instrumental version
No.
of this. So it was a
Yeah,
very
yeah,
special
very.
era for NSYNC here in Brazil. I love this. Is my favorite boy band items in my collection.
I love that you show all the era.
Thank
I
you.
love
Yes.
it. I
You
love it.
have a huge
Oh yeah,
collection.
thank you.
And what about your favorite in your collection, Mao?
I have to show this one because like vinyls are very hard to
Yeah,
find, and vinyls from 2000 or even from the 90s, from the middle 90s or the mid 90s or the later 90s were so
yeah,
hard to
totally.
find. And I found this here in Colombia. It was like I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's impossible. This is the Blackstreet Finally album. I love that album, and I love that I have this vinyl because I love this band. And as I said, it's very difficult to find. So this is my favorite item by boy bands in my
Mm,
collection.
Perfect.
That's great.
What about you, Mariel? It's hard to choose. Oh, okay.
No.
Please say it. Please say the name.
I I love the Together album.
I
This is
love it too.
their second. Yes, their second. I don't have their first. I find this a lot of people makes fun of Together because of them being like a fictional band, but I know that all pop fans out there
Yeah.
love their
The
music.
sound is
So
perfect.
yes,
Well,
yes, and
guys, I want to know about Together. Explain a little bit about it because I don't understand very well the concept. I know it's like a funny, yeah, like a funny boy band. It's not real. I want to know about that.
like I told you, it's a fictional band that they make fun of
It
other boy
was
bands
it
and their
was a movie.
songs, but
The
they
Oh,
MTV released a
it
movie,
was a movie.
and then
Yes.
a
okay.
TV series based on the movie. And the albums are basically the soundtrack for the movie and the TV show, but is
Mm-hmm.
is
But
very
they were singing.
yeah, yeah,
They were
it's
actually
very well
singing.
produced. And it's funny
Yes.
because there's an
Oh,
old
okay,
guy
okay,
in
okay.
between of the teenager boys.
Oh yes. I think it's Doug. This one.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
okay.
And
Thank you, guys.
this one here, which is Mikey. He is an actor too, and he appeared on Never Been Kissed with
Yeah,
Drew Barrymore.
and one of
With Drew
Um,
Barrymore. Okay.
unfortunately passed away, like in a
Passed
lot of boy
away.
bands.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
really
really?
sad.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
It's really hard. Yeah, but well, this is my favorite because I found this on a CD shop here in Mexico. I was just, like watching randomly, and suddenly it popped, and I'm like, what? This album here in Mexico? Because the show was never
Yeah,
broadcast here. So, it was weird, and it was one
yeah.
dollar. So,
Oh, very cheap, and it was a
I
gem.
wish I could
Totally a
know
gem.
yes. So I
before.
saw it and
Yeah,
like, yeah.
I wish
Of
I could know
course, it's
this
mine.
before
It's
because I
mine.
used to have two of the other album, and I sold one. So if I found again, I will save
Oh,
it for you and give you.
I love their first album. I love their song
Yes,
Calculus.
it's
It's
amazing.
amazing. So, yeah. Yeah. So, well, this is my favorite. Now, Lucas, your favorite boy band song?
God, oh God.
It's difficult, I know.
Um, I would say "Larger Than Life" by the Backstreet Boys. I always think a lot of songs, but I think after all, this is my favorite because of the production. I love the version of the video with the dance break, the extended version, and for me, it's just perfect. I'm back.
Yes, it's
Love
a
it,
great
love
song.
it. Yeah, yeah, love
Yes.
it.
And yours, Mao?
I have to say it's in on that city, on this city, and it's called "It's Over Now" by 112 in the Part 3 album. I don't know if you remember the video of that song. If you remember the song, guys?
I don't, to be honest.
Maybe no.
No, not now. Not now.
I know you're going to love that song because it's very R&B, it's very urban, but it's very pop at the same time. And I love the concept of the video. I remember that song by I don't know if it's Justin Timberlake or NSYNC outside of 2011 that 7-Eleven outside of 7-Eleven. It's Justin Timberlake or it's NSYNC?
Is girlfriend video you are talking about?
I
Yeah,
think I
it's
think that
very
yeah,
hip
yeah,
hop
yeah, it's
influenced.
outside of
Yeah.
a 7-Eleven. Ah, okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, in this video, they are dancing outside a Waffle House. That is place like I don't know, like Denny's or that in the United States, like IHOP. It's amazing because they are dancing a lot. It's very I don't know. It's very NSYNC or Backstreet Boys because they dance a lot, and it's not common that
Mm-hmm.
an R&B boy band dance. It's not very common. Like for example, Boys to Men
Yeah,
never dance, but it's
No.
amazing. You
Mm-hmm.
have to listen to that song, guys, because I'm sure about it.
I
You're gonna
will.
love it.
I will. Is this boy
Yeah,
band that
totally.
Okay.
Cisco
It's
was
my
part?
favorite. No, no, no. This is one of my other favorites. Cisco was part of Drew
Okay,
Hill.
thank you.
Drew
Yeah, yeah,
Hill.
yeah.
Yes.
So, and you, Marielle?
Yeah, moving on,
Ah,
I know it's
Mariel.
hard, but you gotta choose.
uh, I I know I
Yeah.
hate it because I have two favorites, which is Sexiest Woman Alive by O Town and This Temptation by Blue. But since I don't have Blue's album, I'll go with
Okay.
this one. I'll go with
Okay.
Sexiest Woman Alive. I just find it so well. The songs, the title says it all. It's sexy. So I just love that song in
Marielle,
particular. I don't know
you are
why
always on the sexy tracks. You are always on the sexy tracks. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Get Mine,
know.
Get Yours by Christina
Yeah,
Aguilera, and
yeah.
now this one. Yeah.
Leave me alone. Anyway,
No, that's
so
amazing. I think it's amazing.
I know that song in particular. I feel like it's dedicated to every girl in the world. So
Awesome.
I know. And
Okay. I'm gonna
yes,
check on
so
it.
that's the one. And now your favorite boy band video, Lucas. I know it's a tough one.
Oh God, why are you
Oh
doing this?
my God.
Uh, I try to answer the first thing in my mind because I think that's honest. So I thought the same, Larger Than Life by the Backstreet Boys. I know it's boring saying the same one, but it's true. It's my favorite music video by a boy band.
No, it's a great video. It's so futuristic.
Yes.
I love it. Mm. And yours, Mao?
Wow, this is a very hard question, guys. Well, I have to say I go with Boys to Men again, and I said End of the Road by Boys to Men. I love they were dressed exactly like the same, and with these very characteristic outfits from the 90s, with the with these shirts. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's an amazing video. Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
And yours,
Okay.
Maria.
End of the Road. Yeah.
Uh, it's in here. I love It's Gonna
Oh,
Be
great
Me.
video.
I
Oh
love
yeah, totally. Yeah.
that video.
The concept
Awesome.
is
That video in
amazing.
particular
Yeah,
is
yeah.
great.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
I love it.
the how they were made as Barbie dolls,
Yes,
and
it's
Yeah,
perfect.
I
They
love
yeah.
look like
the
dolls. Yeah,
effects of
perfect.
Yeah,
yes.
they look
I
like
love
dolls.
I love the whole concept and their dancing too. I love
Yes.
the choreography. So I think
Yeah,
that's
that
my
video
favorite.
is
There's a lot of
Perfect.
videos out
It's
there,
like
but
pop,
yeah.
pop, pop, pop.
Yeah, perfect
Yes,
selection.
Dreams Pop.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Like you mentioned, Lucas, a few moments ago, there's like a curse with boy bands. There have been a lot of passings in the
Yes.
past few years from boy bands
It,
out
it,
there,
it's
which is
very
a shame.
weird. I
We
was
can,
thinking about this today because I was watching an LFO music video every other time that I love. And it's crazy that
Mhm.
we lost three of them because at the beginning they at the
Three
beginning they
members.
were a different member who just passed this year. We
Mm-hmm.
lost Devin and Rich.
Devin
Yes,
and Rich.
before. So there's only one alive, and is really cool that he continued to sing it, and he calls himself LFO in the concerts. So that's really awesome. But we have lost in Dream Street, the
Oh,
Together,
Chris
yeah,
Truesdale.
the Boyzone.
I
Yeah,
felt so bad.
it's very very sad.
Yeah, there's
Oh
like a
wow.
curse with boy bands
Yes,
out there. Don't know why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But their
Totally.
music is still alive, which
yeah,
is great. Like you mentioned, LFO. I think LFO is a great group. We should have mentioned that before, Mao, that LFO mixes a lot of R&B, hip hop, and even
yes,
rap with their
Oh,
music
okay.
because yes, they
Okay,
used to
okay.
you know this song like
yeah,
Summer Girls, right?
Okay.
Because it's more like a rap chorus, like
Vibe.
New Kids on the
Okay.
Block had a bunch of hits, Chinese with makes music So, so I know the lyrics are crazy because they don't make sense at all, but the whole song is like
Yeah.
rapped. So
I
it's
think that I
good.
know that song. I think that I know that song. I have to check on the LFO work because I'm very
And
curious about it. So yeah, yeah, guys. I know you have a track list like
yeah,
Spotify or the platform, the streaming platform you use. So it's amazing that I have to create one because I don't have one. So we have to share this track list with this
yeah.
playlist
We are
with
sharing
people.
the
Yeah,
those
totally.
playlists, mine and Marielle, yeah,
Our
on the
playlists.
description of the video, so you guys can check the link. And before we go, I want to
Mm-hmm.
ask you if there's any boy band song that you guys are listening to the most right now. There's any boy band song that you guys are kind of addicted, even old songs. Um,
Mm,
Oh, wow, so hard.
good
Mariel,
question.
what about
uh,
you?
I don't have that album in particular, but I always play that song, which is Faded by Soul
yeah,
Musician,
yeah,
Canadian boy
great.
band. I love that song. I love the vibe. I love the rhythm. I play it constantly. I never
It's
get
good.
tired of it. What
Right
about you
now, I'm
guys?
really addicted to Invisible by Decide. It is a song that Clay
Okay.
Aiken
Okay,
recorded
okay,
too.
okay.
It's called a Stalker song because of the lyrics that are actually weird. He's
Okay.
telling that he wants to be invisible to see the girl alone in the room and what she's thinking and she's doing. So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
creepy. But I don't know the sound of that. It's kind of pop rock. It's not very pop. So for me, it's very appealing. And I love to sing the song on the shower.
Mm-hmm.
My neighbors for sure
Okay.
know the song by now because I sing all the time. And you, Mauricio?
Well, I before I gave my answer, I have to say because of you guys, right now I been experimenting or having the opportunity to listen more pop
Yeah,
music that I love back in the day, like NSYNC, Britney, Christina, these kind of things because of you guys, because of your suggestions, your recommendations, because I learned a lot from you. And I have to say, Cheering Up My Heart by NSYNC. I love that song.
Oh,
And when the song
a
yeah,
started,
classic.
yeah, I'm like tearing up my heart, doing
yeah.
the dance, like
Bum, bum,
yeah.
bum.
For me, it's like the perfect song. Like I'm trying to do these moves. Like it's amazing. I love that song, and it's because of you guys. You
Oh,
wake up that pop side of
Oh,
me
that's
that I
amazing. And you
forget
have a
maybe.
lot to discover,
So
and you're
it's
gonna love
amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
everything.
Oh,
Yeah, I know
yes.
that. I know that. I'm eager. Yeah, right now I'm
Yes.
like I wanted to know
You're in
that.
good hands. You're in good hands because both Lucas and I
Yeah,
know a
yeah.
lot about this.
No doubt about it. I know that.
Yes, well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. It's been fun talking again about subjects that we love,
Yeah,
in this case, boy bands. I had a lot of
me
fun
too.
today, guys. I just want to
Totally.
say thank you. Thank you so much for watching us, for all your support that you've been giving us through Instagram or on our messaging, through DM, all of your suggestions and your thoughts about our channel. I think it will make us grow so much.
Yeah,
If you guys
totally.
tell us what you think, what should we improve, what should we be talking about. We are open to suggestions. So I hope to see you guys next week on a new episode of Ready Set Pop. Um, Anything else you guys want to add?
Well, I just want to say thank you once again for you guys to join me for this amazing conversation, and it's always a pleasure. I want to remind everyone that is watching us to subscribe. It's very important, and give us your like and comments. Share with your friends who loves pop music. We can wait to have someone else here talking with us as a guest. Who knows? So if you like pop music, please continue to support us. And for us, it's fun to do this anyway. So thank you. And Mauricio, you want to say something?
Well, first of all, thank you guys. You inspire me all the time. I share amazing moments talking with you. Thanks the audience, and if the audience has I have ideas maybe of new episodes, we are open to hear you. Thank you so much for watching us. It's amazing for us. As Mario and Lucas said, we are growing. We are working so hard to give you these episodes. We are not perfect at all. We are improving all the time and trying to be better. So yes, thank you, the audience, and thank you guys. Love you so much.
Yes.
You know it.
Thank you so much, everyone. So I hope you guys have a good night, good week, and I will be seeing you next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Big kiss and hugs to everybody.
Bye.